Hi there, and welcome to the Creative Operations Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Groome, and in this podcast, we'll be talking with creative operations leaders in all kinds of industries, from franchising to finance, from healthcare to hospitality and beyond. We'll be looking to uncover best practices and to see trends that are coming to help you keep your creative operations on brand and on budget at the same time. Enjoy. Hey, welcome everybody to this episode of the Creative Operations Podcast 2.0. I'm your host, Kevin Groome, and I'm very pleased today to have Melanie Draheim with us. She's the Vice President of Marketing and Communications at Network Health, Wisconsin. Melanie, welcome. It's really nice to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I wanted us to start with just a little bit about your journey. I loved your blog post on introverts in marketing and how that, an introverted perspective kind of brings something unique to the world of marketing. So tell us a little bit about how you got into this game in the first place and what where you're headed, what your mission really is all about.
Sure. So I'd say a lot of it was building relationships and experiences over time. I started as a marketing coordinator and a writer in my career, handling project management of different creative projects for an in-house team and working with other coordinators, graphic designers, web designers, and clients. And about after 5 years at that company, a leader I had at the time left the organization to help another company build their in-house marketing team, and she let me know of a marketing manager opening there. So long story short, through that relationship, I moved into the manager role, and I've been with the same company ever since, going on 12 years now about. So held a variety of roles there, with marketing being the constant, but also spent some time leading sales, product, and strategy. But today, I really kind of, throughout the years, oversight of brand and creative, been fortunate to lead the growth of our team, which started with just 3 people and over the years has grown to 15. So we serve as the in-house agency. It's been really rewarding to see that team grow and develop over time.
I'll bet it has been. That is phenomenal growth. I mean, to really move from just, everybody wearing multiple hats to really beginning to segment into disciplines and to the benefit of watching people develop too. And that, I'm sure, is not insubstantial. So that's fantastic. Tell me a little bit more about, as you guys grew, how did that team what did you sort of grow out and begin to mature first, would you say? What was the functional area that you focused on first as you began to grow?
Yeah, so a little bit into the, segmenting, writing it from design, from fulfillment, and then leadership. So really, I think, understanding the team's strengths and doubling down on those strengths, leading into those, but then also figuring out where maybe we had gaps in certain skill sets and learning what team members are interested in to build those within the team. Certainly, we worked with outside agencies too, which always helps. But really, I focused on kind of finding those areas within the team that it could be a win-win, help them grow a new skill set, learn something new, but also something that our business needed to focus on. So that's
sure. And a little background for the audience, too. We should just mention that Network Health Wisconsin is really tell us a little bit about it. So it comes from your perspective and who your sort of marketer community is out there in the local regions.
Sure. Yeah. So we are a local community-based health plan just serving Wisconsin, and we are owned by a provider system. So we're really in the community that we're serving, and we serve anyone from a Medicare beneficiary who needs Medicare insurance coverage to an individual and family. Maybe they don't get insurance through their employer, and also working with employer groups to provide that insurance for their employees. So a few different segments of audiences, and I'd say too, over time, we've segmented our team in that way, where people can specialize in a certain audience in that creative, and then cross-train each other to kind of learn each segment.
I got you. Yeah, it is a broad range of areas, all the way from Medicare into the sort of the corporate environment. And I'm sure very different communication strategies. And is there a sort of a local component to this? Are you guys sort of marketing through agents and or, sort of operatives at the local level?
Sure. Yeah, there definitely is. We have an in-house team, an in-house sales team, but we also work with independent agents throughout our service area. So those agents, have their own agencies and they sell our products and other products, but we really work to build close relationships for them. So we can help them grow their business at the same time that we can grow our membership.
Yeah, so that's a part I wanted to really focus on too, because that notion of selling through the channel is both really rewarding, but it's also really time consuming and often a lot more, I would think, chaotic, than kind of a top down, well disciplined marketing strategy. So how do you balance that notion of really building a culture, developing careers and helping people find what they want to do while at the same time servicing all these requests that are coming in, from the field, ad hoc?
Yeah, it's definitely a balance, I'd say. I think for network health, something that's kind of our driving, force through everything is having a strong purpose-driven mission that members come first, and we're here to serve our members. And we work with companies that have those same values and feel attached to that mission. So that always helps, and more than just words on the wall, but integrity, for example, I think is a value for many companies, but we put that more into language of what does that look like? And that's also been our brand promise to our customers and the agents that we work with, and that we do the right thing, even when it's not easy, because sometimes it's not, but it's the right thing to do. So I think it's really important kind of as a marketer to connect the company's culture to its brand and those relationships that you're building with outside partners like our agents, and learning and growing together kind of along the way.
Yeah, no, I got you. So, as you think about that, and you're really segmenting your team into its various disciplines now, how do you sort of insulate the creative strategy, sort of the deep work that you need to do around brand building from the operational? How do you create a safe space for that to occur?
Yeah, definitely. I think, there's a lot, it's so important when you have a high performing team that's always willing to jump in and help. Maybe our natural people pleasers, as a lot of us tend to be. We want the client to be happy, or the agents we're serving to be happy. But I think something that's really helped us is having a streamlined and defined process for how requests come in, having that whole overall strategy and those goals we're working toward, annual planning, and knowing that things will come up because they always do. But being able to track and vet those requests. So, for example, we don't have things going directly to a graphic designer. It's kind of reviewed first. Let's figure out, is this really needed? Do we already have something that we could repurpose and not create the wheel? But then tracking that, and we flag certain requests, as unplanned, or we lovingly call kind of the one-off request that was needed yesterday a screamer. So we we kind of vet those in the same way and figure out, okay, does this need to be done now? And if it does, then we huddle as a team and we get it done. But then also we make sure to kind of debrief and go back and plan for the following year. Like, will that come up again, or is there a template we can create to make this process more turnkey? So those are a couple things.
You cover a broad area. I loved it. I always love running into folks who started on the copy side,
Sure.
and then you began to build around that. It was actually something that happened to me early on in my journey. But as you've had to develop that range of experience across graphic design, content, strategy, all of that, technology is, I'm sure, playing a bigger and bigger role.
Yeah.
So how is it that you guys go about bringing in technology to support the team without chasing after the latest shiny object or whatever it might be?
Sure.
Because there's always new things coming, right? Every 2 weeks, it seems.
Yeah, there always is. And I think that's one thing that's constant is change. There's always something new, right? Which I love about it, but it can be overwhelming too. So I think for us, it really goes back to being strategic and always starting with strategy first, and then researching tools and technology to meet those goals. versus, hearing about a tool, oh, this is really cool, and then trying to figure out how to use it. So our information technology team really does a great job of this by collaborating with business owners like marketing on their goals and their business needs to create a roadmap versus there's the other way around. So one thing too I did specific for our team was coming up with an assignment of everyone working on an innovation project for the year. Implement, one new thing we've never done before that would help us achieve one of our goals or improve a process, because that too can be innovation. So even with just that little bit of structure, we ended up with, however many completed projects, some creating time savings by automating a process or others introducing new tools, to bring like digital marketing data into one dashboard, that type of thing. But the team enjoyed it so much, we did it again the following year. So that's kind of become more of our work now and routine, I'd say.
Oh, that's really neat. So everybody has the chance to pick out kind of a blue sky area where they can help innovate the organization. Mm-hmm. And, I would think for junior members on the team too, that's an opportunity to shine and contribute beyond what a job description might be, in a really inspiring way. That's a great tip. I'm sure a lot of folks would love to pick up on that. I also wanted to go back to this notion. Why do you call them screamers?
Yeah. So the Screamer projects are those projects that are hot and they were needed yesterday, right? So it's it needs to be done. It's a rush. It's a emergency kind of project, and those happen. Hopefully not often, but they do. And we try to plan like the best we can for those and get together as a team. Sometimes it's just communication. Communication is key when those types of things happen. But, it's an unplanned project, or sometimes unplanned projects don't need to be done right away. They just weren't something you planned for. But the Screamer is the kind of the rush one. And sometimes I think tracking and analyzing those is important. So that's kind of why.
We've seen over time. Sometimes they come from the field. That's where we focus a lot on trying to insulate folks from the chaos that can come from lots of people out in the field. But sometimes those screamers come from on high and sort of filter down from a different direction. Yeah. And actually, it's those I often find that can consume the most amount of brain power, and that often have the least defined sort of approach to timing, scheduling, and prioritization. And being able to insulate the team both from on top and from the field at the same time really puts you in this place where you're kind of in a vice between those two things very often, I would think. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. It's a delicate balance of being agile and disciplined at the same time, because you want to be able to pivot, but you also want to prevent every project from being that way, right? So
yes. And on top of all that, to be able to negotiate both the diplomacy of that and the practicality of that, and to put on people's plates tasks that are unplanned and that are yet very, very important, and do so in a way that doesn't feel like they're surrendering to chaos, is, to me, especially for an introvert, that is calling on a lot of different skills at the same time. And the fact that you've grown from 3 to 15 is really remarkable. Has the business, do you think, grown at the same kind of pace as your marketing team, or has the marketing team grown faster than the business because you're taking on more responsibilities for the business that used to be out of house?
Sure. I would say a little of both. Network Health, we've definitely grown, and we're now the largest Medicare Advantage plan in provider-owned Medicare Advantage plan in Wisconsin. So we compete with really large, really national companies, but we've been able to grow and find our niche. And I think we've done that within the team too. We've found ways where maybe a certain aspect of work we had an agency doing is something we want to grow the skill set of within our team. So building that and helping people learn those competencies. And last year we kind of did a thing where everybody picked a topic and taught the rest of the team about it. So you could really dig into something, but then others would kind of benefit too from what you learned. So that was one thing we did as we kind of we did a transition away from an agency a little bit, and some of the things they're doing, bringing that in-house, but also we needed to build up some of those skills. So that's one of the ways we approached it.
Well, you mentioned having to compete against major brands, and what we've seen, from the ANA, the Association of National Advertiser, is that the big brands, almost 80% of them, have followed very much the same path that you guys have been forging, which is bringing in-house and really turning the in-house team into brand experts across a bunch of different fronts. So I have two questions just to remain, and I want to make sure I'm so respectful of your time. But my first question has to do with the digital migration or evolution. We've heard from all sorts of different communities that print is shrinking as a part of the total marketing mix, and digital really, really expanding, probably, moving from 70-30 10 years ago to 70-30 the other direction today. So, in that very time, you've had to grow a team, from the 400% increase as you described it, and seen skill sets arise that you probably had no real, practical experience with prior. How did all of that, affect the way you developed the team, that digital evolution?
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting to think about 10 years ago, how different it's been and how quickly it's evolving. And today it seems like even more at a rapid pace than it has been. So I think a lot of it has been learning and testing, right? So there's so many new things coming out and changes to how algorithms work and different digital marketing channels and tools. And a lot of times we will talk with other plans that aren't competitors and see what's working for them or what's not. But testing it ourselves has really been, I think, the most fruitful thing, because while maybe it works for someone, across the country a certain way, but in our market, people behave a little bit differently. So again, I think testing on a small scale, so then we could figure out, okay, but does this work, or do we need to pivot and tweak it a bit? That's one of the ways we've done that. And I think too, just bringing in people who can really specialize on that. And for myself, it's that know more than I do about it, so that they can teach us and help us grow our own knowledge and skill set along the way.
Yep. From SEO to analytics, to the evolution of, and soon the sunsetting of cookies and the way we're analyzing web traffic, all of that stuff, it seems to me, is a discipline that has to start to occupy a silo inside any in-house team, because it's just beginning to dominate in terms of volume, and it's evolving at a pace that just puts everything else in the dust,
Yes. Yes.
So it's fascinating to hear that you guys have been able to keep pace. I have two questions. I lied. I said I was only going to ask you one more, but I want to ask, excuse my dog. I wanted to ask you this question. Of all the different technologies that are out there, AI, workflow, digital asset management, you name it, ad analytics, purchasing platforms, what for you is like the area that you're thinking about next going forward? What's the area that's got, in your sort of radar screen most prominently?
Yeah, so we have been researching several digital asset management tools. So I do think that's something probably on the horizon for us. It wasn't something we could fit in this year with the timing of everything and interrupting kind of our seasonality, but going into next year, we've done quite a bit of research around that, and I think that's definitely one thing. Another thing we're looking a lot at is like tools for reviews and workflows. So the reviews of documents and things, and getting that out of email or certain. But there's really turnkey things out there today that we're anxious to add to our kind of our tool and technology library, for lack of a better term. Yeah.
No question. Both DAM and workflow, I think where you guys are at now with a team of more than a dozen, force multiplying those folks with those productivity tools will have huge impact, I'm sure. And then last question, and this is one, it's a little bit selfish, but I'm asking or trying to, the team is guiding me to ask the same question of everybody so that we can sort of put together a montage. So we think of it as a lightning round. Take your time with it though. So you guys are, facing massive competition. or competition from very, very large companies with very well-established brands. And while you guys have an established brand, you're always a little bit, punching above your weight. So I want to ask you this question, especially given the local aspect to your business. How do you defend the brand and its consistency and its integrity when there's so many different tactical needs coming to you every day, those screamer projects and other things beside? How do you blend those and balance those two priorities?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I think the first thing that comes to mind right away is close collaboration. So both within our team, but with all the departments that we work with, there has to be collaboration and working together there to keep everything in sync. And I think along with that, communication and feedback when, things are beautifully represented and done, acknowledging that, or when it's not, acknowledging that too, and explaining why and making the tweaks that you need to. And then I think I'd say as kind of a discipline aspect of that, having clear brand guidelines that all team members are trained and well-versed in, but also within your company, making sure everyone understands those and what they mean.
It's awesome. The brand guidelines, when we are setting up a dam, we often find the brand guidelines is the first document we insert into a digital asset management system. And then as time goes by, it becomes something that isn't even being, looked at enough. And so finding a way not just to store it somewhere simple and easy to access, but getting folks to pay attention to the fact that it's there is a challenge that I think goes on every single day. Definitely. So, Melanie, let me say thank you for spending some time with us. This was really helpful. And guys, join us for the next episode of the Creative Operations Podcast 2.0. We'll be back with you very soon.